Good morning, everybody. So, I wanted to come on because I was totally in my feels about a couple of lives that I've been to. And I understand everybody's going to have their own perception of this situation with Travis Scott, the Astroworld Fest, the tragedy that occurred. Overall, I think that everybody feels that it was a tragedy and a preventable one at that. And then there are those of us who feel like, to some extent, this was, if not on purpose, callous as hell. The one thing that I'm having a really hard time understanding are the people who are saying they don't understand how Travis Scott could be held accountable. He's the artist, da 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 da. So that would mean that we'd have to ignore the basic of basic things, which is A, there's so many posts on Twitter, were because he deleted them on Twitter, on Instagram, where he talked about the show being sold out and him letting more people in. That's the first thing. I don't know about anybody else or the legality of it all, but that's still a breach of security. It's definitely where you don't care about public safety, period. Even if we're dealing with COVID, right? And people are supposed to be keeping 6 feet. Even if you're dealing with COVID and you having a vaccination doesn't make you immune to getting COVID, that in itself is a problem, right? But then Houston PD goes ahead and they finally throw him under the bus. Because when they first came out, they gave us the puncture wound in the security officer's neck, right? So the narrative was then, oh, somebody was going around injecting people with drugs and this is how this happened. That's pretty much what I was getting from it. Because why bring it up? You know what I mean? If you guys already knew that you had spoke to him before the show started, his set started at least, and told him you were concerned about the energy of the show, right? Because that's what we're finding out as of late, that they had already been to him. This came out after the puncture wound theory. So we know that at this point, the Houston PD, they want to get themselves out of hot water. Because now it's like, okay, guys, the first thing we let out, that's not going to work. So we need to inform them that we told him specifically that they were concerned. So now I believe his set goes on 71 minutes after the first person dies. And I keep seeing this thing where people are, listen, as I could raise my hand and say I'm a conspiracy theorist, okay? But as conspiracy theories go, right? You're not going to get me to believe that, yes, just because there was demonic imagery and ritualistic behavior going on and people just so happen to die, you conspiracy theorists are getting on my nerves thinking everything's a conspiracy theory. So I'm the type of person that if it walks, talks, and squawks like a duck, it's a duck. But I watch so many people in some of these lives talk about how, oh, it was just art. It was just this. It was just that. Okay, well, you hear a lot about energy going around, and it's not just conspiracy theorists who are talking about it. Energy literally is a scientific fact, right? All you hear throughout this whole thing, even from the people who were there and victims who survived, and everybody is talking about it. Let's not act like when you've met somebody in the past or in the present and you just didn't feel them, the first thing you're thinking is they have a bad energy or I don't like how they vibrate. That's a real thing. So I would suggest that stop trying to demonize conspiracy theorists because there's nothing at all wrong with recognizing a conspiracy. Because the theory, a theory itself we know is a real thing. And a conspiracy we know is a real thing. A group of people who know something that the rest of us don't know, right? Whether the intention is good or bad. My thing is the defense of Travis Scott by some. Even if I went by the basics, everybody's making this so super technical. Oh, whose role was what? Whose responsibility was this? And whose responsibility was that? We know that your baby's mom, right? She deleted posts off of her story for a reason when she recorded the ambulance. We know that Travis Scott went and deleted some of his posts on Twitter, which some of us have saved. Where you talk about letting people in even after it was at capacity. Now, I'm not one to condemn people based on their past, right? Because people can grow from it, but clearly he didn't. So you've already faced charges and pled guilty to reckless endangerment in Chicago. We've already, ever since this came out, we've all seen you urge somebody to jump off a third floor balcony. And this is just another time. So the crazy thing to me is, right, if you go onto Instagram for Astroworld Fest or Travis Scott, you'll notice that the promotional pictures for him and Drake at the concert were put up the same time as the condolence from Astrofest and Travis Scott. And we don't have to be rocket scientists or read body language to know that that distraught Travis, who came online with that bullshit PR video, he would have been better off not saying anything and having his representative type something up. This is inexcusable. And you know what? The one thing I'm happy about is that everybody is kind of seeing the direction that these people are taking, because it literally is just money above everything, even human life. For me, myself, this is more of a humanity thing. I'm one of those people who's extremely empathic, and I never hold a dollar over a human being. Ever. I just can't imagine sending a kid or a family member off to a show where they spent money to see their favorite artist, and then what I get back is a request to send your funeral expenses to that artist. Like, you've got to be kidding me. Stop making excuses. He had every single opportunity to stop that show. I see people saying, what was the cameraman supposed to do? I don't think anybody thought that the cameraman could actually stop the show. Or maybe the people who did the lights. But I think that what people thought was there would be some kind of concern that human beings were suffering, that it would make them say, like any normal human being, oh, hold on, drop what we're doing, let's go help. Which then may have brought some alertness, may have brought some attention to the situation. But there's even a portion where you hear Travis himself say, who said stop? We know that they were aware of the ambulance. And please, when this happens, because this will happen next, you're going to see people then victim blame when people start sending in lawsuits because they feel like people are doing it from a come up if they didn't die out of this tragedy. I personally hope that all of them get their asses sued right off of them, because at the end of the day, the thing they held the most value for, which was not human life, was money. And that's what they deserve to lose now.